Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the executive meeting this morning. There is only one item of business, and that is to decide on the motorhome strategy and the implementation proposal. So, the first thing we have this morning, I should say, before I start, welcome to Councillor Tom Holway. This is his first executive meeting, and we're really pleased to have you with us, Tom.
Thank you.
So welcome. Approve the minutes that are in this agenda for the executive held on the 11th of March 2021. Now these have in fact already been through council, so I don't anticipate there'll be any problems with them. Is everybody happy that we sign them off? Yes, thank you. Urgent business, I can be advised of any urgent business. There is one thing perhaps I'd like to say this morning, and that is to confirm the executive portfolios from annual council. I did say there'd be a bit of moving around. As we know, Councillor Holway is taking on the climate change and biodiversity portfolio, which has taken a big chunk of work away from me. So in order to divide up the work on the corporate strategy, I am going to take on strategic planning and DM, as well as housing, leaving Councillor Bastow with supporting our local economy, tourism and the marine sectors, and that will include assets, Salcombe Harbour, revenues team, council tax and the finance team, management and monitoring. So he's not going to be without things to do, I don't think. Otherwise, the portfolios remain largely as they were before, but at some time we'll try and get it on a sort of ad hoc schedule and send it around so members are quite clear who's doing what. Now, there may be some members who are streaming. If you wish to speak and you see something on the screen that you want to ask a question about, if you send an email to Darryl White, he will be able to pick it up and pass it on to us. Is that all right with you, Darryl?
I'll do that, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, declarations of interest. Members are invited to declare any personal or disclosable pecuniary interests, including the nature and extent of such interests, that they may have in any items to be considered at this meeting. Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Personal interest in the item we're discussing.
Thank you. As a motorhome owner?
As a camper van owner.
A camper van owner. Thank you, Councillor Hopwood. Public question time. I haven't been notified of any public questions, so I'll now pass over to Councillor Baldry to introduce this paper.
Thank you, Leader. Good morning, everyone. Really, by way of introduction, before we go into questions, I just wanted to say thank you everyone for turning up for this emergency meeting. We called it as an emergency meeting because we are very keen to get this service to tourists introduced in time for half-term week next week. So if hopefully this is approved, the new arrangements will be starting with the half-term week next week. But thank you everyone for turning up for this meeting. I think this is a very important proposal going forward for tourism in the South Hams, and the primary objective is to bring more tourists into our towns. And we all feel very strongly we are lucky to live here in the South Hams. It's a beautiful tourist area, and there are a great many businesses within the South Hams which are dependent on tourists, and that is the reason we are doing this. We'll go to questions in a minute, and then I shall propose the paper to you, Leader, but just to stress that we have listened to the public. We've had about 750 responses, which is a record, I think, for responses, and we have listened to the public, record, I should say, since 2019 for responses to the consultation. Thank you everyone for responding, and I hope the paper demonstrates that we have listened to what everyone has to say. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Baldry. Are there any questions on this paper? Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Question, 750 comments, which is great, but in the number of representations, that doesn't add up to 750, so what's happened to the rest of them?
I shall I think it does. It includes a petition as well, but that is not counted as something.
Councillor Hopwood, I think some people rely on multiple car parks too, so they've probably been allocated to each car park, but I'll ask Emma Woodcock to explain.
So obviously with the representations, lots of people wrote in and some people are very specific about certain car parks. Other people spoke generally about the whole of the concept of the policy. So what we did, the representations we split down by the individual car parks so we could see the different areas. And that's why they won't always add up to the 748, because that's where we've drilled into the actual specifics of where people have talked about specific car parks. And then we've considered the other ones generally overall.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Foss.
Yeah, sorry I'm late, Chairman.
That's right, don't worry.
Acknowledged. It's really the Slapton Mine car park, which is in my ward. We've agreed we're not going to put motorhomes on that after the consultation. But what is concerning me greatly is that we'll stop them, but there is a smaller variety that tend to be, they don't have the facilities on board, and you know what we've had the last 2 years, we've had terrible problems with antisocial behaviour is the best way of putting it, I think. What plans are in place to alleviate that problem? We're going to stop overnight parking completely, or what's the way forward?
Councillor Foss, there is a notice up there that says no overnight sleeping.
Yeah.
And we have far greater resources this summer to control car parks early in the morning. Perhaps we could ask Mr Brooke to run that one.
Yeah, thank you. That's absolutely right. So we, as part of the changes that we proposed that were brought back to the executive at the previous meeting, we've resourced up that our ability to ensure that we can enforce at the appropriate time, which often isn't core hours. So we will be ensuring that our teams, localities teams and enforcement officers visit the sites. As you know, we've got a barrier in place for the larger vehicles. We've also increased the capacity for rubbish because we're anticipating the site being just busy generally, and we've also asked for the areas either side of the car parks to be manually picked on a more frequent basis as well. So it's a combination of ensuring that the environment is kept in good condition and clean, as well as enforcing to stop the problem in the first place.
Can I ask an ancillary question to that? I've been lobbied by the fishing fraternity in particular, as we know that area is used for overnight fishing, sometimes fishing competitions. Is there any way we can put out to that community that if they come to us that we can accommodate them in some way, shape, form or fashion?
I can answer that. So we're aware that there is night fishers there, so we asked them to contact us as a team, and then we will give them express permission to be able to park and record all their details.
Well, thank you.
And presumably if they're fishing, they're not sleeping. Not too much.
Well,
Well, not in their cars
Chairman,
anyway, not in their cars.
I will say this, last year there was numerous tents up at Streetgate car park on the beach that had numerous rods propped up outside them. But whether they'd ever been dipped in the water or not would be important to question.
Well, I'm sure we can soon ascertain that. Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to talk about something that Councillor Foster just said with regards to the issues of antisocial behaviour last year, intimating that it was all down to motorhomes and camper vans. I take exception to this because actually motorhome users have...
Councillor Hopwood, can I just stop you? Because he did say the smaller ones.
I was
can
talking
get
about
onto
the
barrier.
smaller van,
Yeah.
which will go underneath that barrier.
Okay, camper van. I still take exception because camper van users actually
I wasn't saying that.
99% of them respect the countryside. Last year we were in an unprecedented situation where we had no toilets open. We weren't prepared for people parking there particularly, so we didn't have as many facilities for rubbish to be collected. So I think, Councillor Foss, in fact I'm sure that you will find the situation a lot better this year, but it wasn't just camper vans, it was people in general.
But that's not what I was saying, that the smaller vans that stay there overnight can get there. And as you well know, we removed the toilets from that car park. We were forced to do that. It's not something we wanted to do. So the facilities aren't there, and people will not walk from one end to the other to say they'll go to Streetgate car park or that. We're still going to, I can guarantee you now, sat here, we will have major problems there this coming year still. And I don't know, and I don't profess to know the answer.
Well, let's see what happens, Councillor Foss, and we will take appropriate action.
That's fine. Yeah.
When it does, or if it does. Councillor Palmer.
I've got some comments, shall I, are those related?
Well, hang on, we're doing questions at the moment. If there are no more questions, then I'm going to ask Councillor Baldridge to propose the recommendations, and then we can have comments.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I move the recommendations.
Second.
Thank you very much indeed. Leader, this is a good news story. I am a little bit disappointed that the little bigger further down the table is distracted away from the fact that this is a good news story for the South Hams. The purpose, I've already said in the introduction, the purpose of this is to do everything that we can to support our businesses to get back on their feet by encouraging local tourism. We have carried out a consultation, we have listened to the consultation, we're trying to make it easier for motorhomes and campervans to visit our district, to bring in their money to spend in our shops and restaurants and have the benefit of the beautiful South Hams which we enjoy all the year round. I'm very delighted that residents have taken the time and effort to share their thoughts on this pilot scheme. We have read their comments and have listened carefully to what they have to say. A number of specific points from the scheme to bring out. First of all is that the parking machines will have alpha keyboards put in, so people can put their car registration number in and we can ensure that they are only staying for the two nights. We're going to improve the signage across the area. To stress, Leader and members, this is only for self-contained motorhomes and campervans. In other words, only for those which have their own on-board facilities, including toilets. It is a 12-month pilot. We will watch it throughout the whole of that period. And in order to make sure that the terms and conditions are adhered to, we have increased staff patrols across the car parks to make sure people are being citizens of the market who are coming out of the market in the next city or the economy of South Hams. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baldridge. Right, comments. Councillor Palmer.
Certainly, in Kingsbridge, there were originally 2 car parks scheduled for pilot project for motorhomes. We've removed one of them, Key Car Park, and the other one is still on the table. However, I know that officers went to a meeting with the Town Council to talk about what was proposed. And the Town Council recommended that neither car park should be used, and that was unanimous. And that hasn't been reflected in the report or in the what's recommended. On the page 7, 310, it says that officers noted there was generally not support for the introduction of the scheme at the Key Car Park, end of. But they don't go on to say there was generally not support for the introduction of the scheme at the Cattle Market Car Park either. So it's not an entirely accurate reflection of what the local concerns are. I mean, I also asked people on local social media what their views were, and the general response was some were in favour, but most were against. And also in the table we've got here, a breakdown in Kingsbridge Cattle Market Car Park, we've got 1 supporting, 4 objecting. In Wadbury we've got 1 supporting, 5 objecting. Totnes we've got 2 supporting, 9 objecting. So I can't really see how that squares with actually putting those forward for recommendations somehow. So what I'm saying is that I think we're pushing it forward without necessarily the support of the residents who live there. And there have been concerns, as Councillor Foss has mentioned, about what happened last year. And the concerns are that that might happen again this year due to potential antisocial behaviour, waste issues. There's only 1 small bin at the top of the Cattle Market Car Park. And I know we don't like putting bins in places. And taking up too much space for other parkers, that sort of thing. And so those are my concerns. And for example, we're also told page 841 vehicles should contain an onboard toilet, however, location of car park close to public toilets. But the Key Car Park, the Key toilets and things were actually closed at night, which is the ones that have been referred to. So I'm struggling to see how people can be reassured that this won't be abused when they didn't actually necessarily want this motorhomes proposal there in the first place.
Thank you. Were you present at the town council meeting?
Yeah.
Mrs Whittaker, would you like to reply? Because I think you were at the council meeting, weren't you?
Yeah, so I agree with Councillor Callaghan that yes, the town council did come back and say that they didn't support the proposals overall. And we have, in that line it does say that they didn't support the proposals, but then also the feedback that we had from members of the public who also responded, a lot of them were talking about the key car park. They had concerns about access to the water, access to the slipway, and that's why we took out the key car park and kept in the capital market.
Councillor Callaghan, what we've ended up with are the 5 car parks where motorhomes are already permitted by day. So now for the pilot, they're going to be permitted by night, maximum of 2 nights as well. Councillor Foss.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, firstly, I want to make it clear, Councillor Baldry, I think this is a good news story as well, because I'm one of the ones who've been concerned about the motorhomes, and I've always been a believer in being able to control something rather than and police it rather than ban it. I am disappointed that we're not going to be able to have a central car park at Slapping Sound. But you've got to go with the wishes of the community there in particular. But I think it really is a good news story, and hopefully that in future years it will go forward and show that those that don't particularly want it, that it's the right way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foss. Does anybody else want to make any sorry, Councillor Brazil, down the end there.
Yeah, sorry I was late, so I missed some of it. I think that this paper probably gets it about right. And like Richard, I mean, I'm disappointed that we can't sort out something middle car park, but I think that the general perception of the public is that it will be a disaster, and it would be, they're almost waiting for it to fail, and I think that would put us in a position that wouldn't be helpful. You know, it's a shame that it's come so late in the day, really. It would have been a lot better if we'd been talking about this in December, quite frankly.
Councillor Brazil, I agree with you, but
Yeah.
I think circumstances have conspired against us.
Okay, no, fair enough. But I think that's part of the problem, and the reason why there's so much resistance, because really what we, you know, in the end, what we want to provide is electric and water, places to get rid of your grey water and the toilet facilities and things like that, as they do on the continent, and it works incredibly well. So, you know, I'm supportive of the concept of this, and I think, you know, and well done to the council for putting forward a paper, listening to the consultation and reacting. I appreciate that not everyone's going to be happy. As Denise has said, Kingsbridge Town Council still are opposed to it, but I think it's true to say, as Emma said, that the ante was more about Key Car Park than the Capital Car Park. But you know, it's a 12-month trial. Let's see how it goes, and let's hope that with proper monitoring, rubbish collection, etc., and things like that, that it indeed can be a good news story at the end of it. I think it is. I think we need to be careful and just think, oh great, we've done it, it's a good news story. It's not. The good news will be if at the end of the season we can turn around and say that worked well. Then it's a good news story. But I think it's got every potential, and I do support it, and I do support the motorhome policy, and hopefully if it works well we can extend it to other car parks, as you know, and to say to the public, look, this is what we did in Kingsbridge or Dartmouth, and this is how it worked. Can we extend it further?
Thank you for those comments. And Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm disappointed that Kingsbridge are so negative towards it, because Kingsbridge has a superb high street, which, let's face it, needs the business. And this will help bring business to Kingsbridge. So I am relieved that we are leaving the Cattle Market car park in for the sake of the businesses within Kingsbridge, because at the end of the day, they're what matters. And it's a pity that the town council aren't more in touch with them, to be quite honest with you. I think I listened to what Councillor Brazil just said, and I think we have to remember this is a 12-month pilot, so I don't think, even if we've been started discussing it 12 months ago, I don't believe at this point we would be looking to put any facilities in at the moment. That will be a decision to be made in 12 months' time, and hopefully in 12 months' time it'll be a proved success. And the only way it will be a proved success is by those that use these overnight facilities respecting our area. And I have every confidence that they will respect the area. So I look forward to 12 months' time when we can say it's been a success, and we can then look to put other facilities in, such as grey waste, which is the main thing that is needed near these sites. And I hope then that more towns and parishes will be able to look at what we're doing. We're a great initiative, forward thinking, to bring more money into our area to help our tourism. There is a shortage of where even campsites, caravanning and motorhome sites for people to park on. The fact is this year there are no facilities that have any room. So we are still facing the issue of an influx of people coming down to the South Hams for the summer, and good on them for coming to the South Hams, because we live here, so we know how amazing the area is. So when the tourists come down who maybe haven't visited before, then they're not going to get into the sites if they haven't booked. So this could help some people out, and I can say it's only going to be positive. For this year, it's positive. It's a pilot scheme. Let's all see how it works. But as been said, it will only work with good management. So I look forward to the next 12 months, and I hope that towns and parishes will look at where they think they can open up car parks, village halls, etc., community centres. They could all make an extra bit of income off the back of this, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think we need to remember that the pop-up campsites are only for tenants, so they won't be able to take motorhomes. Right, Councillor Hawkins.
I think this is a good news story, and I think it's a great shame that Kingsbridge can't actually accept the trial on the Quay car park for this 1 year. These are vehicles that are self-contained, and the issue of antisocial behaviour is a completely separate issue. Those vehicles that do not have are not self-contained will still not be allowed to be parked on those car parks. I think it's a great shame for Torcross and Slapton. You know, what an amazing place it could be for people to park for an evening or maybe 2 evenings, and a night like tonight, that can't actually be achieved. And I'm going to go back to Kingsbridge. I think Kingsbridge is backward looking on this. It is such a shame, because it would bring money into the economy. Kingsbridge, like all our towns, need money after COVID. They've got fantastic restaurants and shops, and I'm going to repeat, these are for self-contained vehicles. There is no need for toilets, but I would hope that the council, and looking at Emma, she's not looking at me, that we will certainly police those that are causing the antisocial behaviour down on Slapton Line, Torcross, and perhaps still in Kingsbridge, will certainly be policed, and it will be quite heavy-handed on those.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chairman. I think with this, I'm pleased to see there's a consultation that's gone ahead. I'm pleased to see the report that's been prepared, and the people have been listened to. And I think this coming year, for those car parks that have been set aside, it is, as been said, important to sort of clearly monitor, assess problems, look at the use, so that at the end of 12 months, we clearly know how it's been used, the success, the failures there. And there will be problems of antisocial behaviour within car parks from people, not necessarily camper vans, I agree with you, just people who come in. And I think that part of the problems that we've had with people's views on this is that antisocial behaviour in car parks has not been clearly enforced or dealt with. And I have to say also, it's not just on our car parks, it's on Devon County highways land as well. So they have a role and responsibility to play in policing this. And I think the thing is that this year we will still need heavy enforcement across all car parks in the district to ensure that there are not the problems, because any problems in any car park will reflect on these that have been allocated, because people will see it as a general problem. I think it's important that we clearly monitor and we look at this, but I'm pleased that, certainly for the car park in my area, North Sands, where it is already very, very busy, that it has been removed from this pilot. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, Councillor O'Connor, have you got something new to say?
Yes. In short. Yes, I just agree with what Mark's saying about enforcement needing to be robust. But it's really a question. I spoke to a motorhome owner the other day who was in the Key car park, basically unaware that they weren't meant to be there. And I sort of said to them that they might like to move to the Cattle Market car park because they might get a ticket, which was really helpful. They weren't impressed, and I said, well, I can show you where it is. And they said, well, no, we don't know where it is. And so it struck me that they're not going to be the only ones. But people know where the Key car park is for obvious reasons, and they don't know where the Cattle Market car park is. So there's some room for confusion, let's say. And I'm wondering if we can improve the signage to the Cattle Market car park, because I can see all sorts of confusion with people not knowing where to go. It's not that clear for people who are not local where it actually is, whereas the Key car park is extremely prominent right by the estuary. It's very big, it's very close to the town centre. And as I say, there's room for confusion and perhaps tempers rising, etc. So I'm just wondering about sites, like clear signage.
Mrs. Whittaker, would you like to explain what you want to do there?
Yes, certainly. So obviously within the Cattle Market there'll be a terms and condition boards that state all the rules and regulations for parking, but I take on board your comments about signage in the Key, and we can ensure that there's signage directing people to the Cattle Market. We can also make it very clear on our website and refer people to maps or areas and make sure that people are aware where the sites are.
Thanks. Thank you. Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to make residents, or to give council Caravan assurance, these sites will be taken up by online sites like Park for the Night or Pitch Up, or not Pitch Up, but it's Park for the Night, I can't remember what it's called. And the campaign for real airs, they'll take it up, and they give specific instructions and specific details of how to get to those sites. So there will be a specific address and location pinpointer. So I don't think there'll be as much confusion as Councillor Callahan thinks there will be. And just one other thing, can I ask please, so if a locality officer goes to a car park and there is a motorhome parked there and there is a camper van parked there, how are they going to know what facilities they have on board?
So that will be a case of challenging them, asking them if they have got facilities on board, because some of the camper vans do have on-board toilet facilities. So that would be talking to education, asking approach.
I'm going to ask Councillor Baldry to sum up in just a second. But Mrs. Whittaker, can I ask you if you could get in touch at the end of this meeting, if you could possibly get in touch with these organisations and email them through the details so we can get them up on their websites?
We've had a good relationship with Canberra, and they're very keen and have followed us a lot on this. I can get in touch.
Fantastic, thank you. I'd just like to put on public record my thanks to you for all the work that you've done to pull this together. And you and your team, I know it's been a huge job, so thank you very much. Councillor Baldry, would you like to say?
I would like to support that. I was going to say that. I mean, I think with all these number of responses, I think Emma Whittaker and Chris Brooker and Laura Rotten and everyone have done a tremendous job in putting it all together and producing, I think, a very well presented paper. So I want to echo what you were saying, Leader. I'm also going to say thank you to the Leader of the Opposition for his support as well today. We the points have all been made, and made well. It is a pilot, we will keep an eye on it. I hope at the end of the pilot it will be successful, but if it is not, we will adjust or remove it. I am expecting, because I think it is going to be successful, we will have a number of other towns and villages saying, how can they join, and where there are not Southdowns car parks, I'm going to support what Councillor Hopwood said. If they've got a village car park, for example, that may be an opportunity for them to do something to make some money. We have said we hope that people will respect the area, but be assured if they do not, we have sufficient resources to make sure and to enforce that people behave properly. I have full confidence that the motorhome and where appropriate the camper van users will be responsible, but if other people are not behaving themselves, I'm sure we will enforce it vigorously for those who do not seem to know how to behave in the South End. This is good for the community, it is good for local businesses, and I ask members to support the recommendations.
Thank you very much. So, thank you, Councillor Baldry. So we will go to the vote. There are two recommendations. The first one lists the car parks that will be included in the pilot scheme for 1 year. And the second one is to approve the variation of the off-street parking orders. Members of the executive, would all those in favour show, please?
That's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. That is the end of this morning's business, so I am closing the meeting. Thank you very much.